Hey everyone, it's your girl Maddie here, aka Beaver Mosh, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by Nico of Kardashev, whose new album Alunea is coming out April 25th off of Metal Blade Records. Nico, thank you so much for doing this. I think it's the morning for both of us. So, how's the morning
Yeah.
treating you?
Morning's actually going well. Thank you for having me here. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. I actually got to stream this morning. I'm a streamer, just kind of like as a part-time job, and I play this game called OS, which is like a rhythm game. So that's been
Okay.
my morning. And then I made pizza, and now here we are hanging out.
You made pizza in the morning.
Well, to be fair, it was 1 o'clock when I made the pizza my time because I'm in Europe. So it's actually
Oh,
3 in the afternoon for me right now.
I thought you were based in Tempe, but your band is technically.
Yes, that's true. Mark and Alex still live in Arizona, but
Yeah.
Sean's in Canada and I'm in Germany. So that's where
Okay.
we're at.
Okay. Thanks for clearing that up. So,
No problem.
yeah.
Yeah. By the way, for the listeners, you're allowed to have pizza in the morning. It's totally fine.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I no judgment. I'm just like that's a move.
It is a mood, dude. It's a vibe, is what it is.
I appreciate the that you are a streamer. I'm a gamer myself, so
Mm.
that's fantastic. I
Yeah,
appreciate the
it,
craft.
it
Yeah,
feels good. Let me tell you something. If you can make money doing what you love, probably don't do that because then you'll just be like a musician who's broke all the time. But if it's
yeah.
gaming, dude, streamers can make bank if they know what they're doing.
Oh yeah. I play RuneScape and seeing some of the top streamers just making $100,000 or more a year just to
Oh,
play a
sure.
video game.
Yeah, it's like a weird lottery system.
Yeah.
It's like so many people stream these days. Like, how do the people that are like able to live on that get to that point? It's really
Mm.
curious, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? But yeah, good luck to anybody. Just enjoy the
Yeah.
game, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I remember 2022 when Liminal Right came out. About 3 years now. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And I remember it garnering quite a bit of attention. It was in definitely kind
Mhm.
of got into the blogosphere for me. I saw it in a lot of places. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering for you, what was it like to have a record that you worked on be received so positively?
Yeah, it actually feels kind of surreal
Yeah.
because, in a way, you feel seen, like
Mm.
actually seen. Because at the end of the day, art is a representation of your feelings and your emotions and whatever sort of energy you want to like capture and like put in a little box for everybody else to observe as well. You can do that. It just takes a lot of work. So when Liminal Right came out, we were getting a lot of praise for the sort of innovation of the
Yeah.
music that people hadn't experienced in the rest of the world. But also, we were getting comparisons to, I think it was Abstract Illusions album Whoa. I'm pretty
Yep.
sure it came out the same year. And so we were kind of, I remember sending them a message and being like, you guys, you deserved album of the year. And they were like, no, you. And I was like, no, you. And there, it was just kind of this adorable little
Yeah.
back and forth because you're right. The internet and Reddit, very specifically,
Yeah.
really did give us a lot of praise for that. And I'm so very grateful. It feels amazing.
I feel like the metal scene just exists on the internet or Reddit, at least in nowadays. Like it's kind of
Yeah.
that's where it is. That's where music gets pushed around these days.
Actually, hold on to that point. You make a
Yeah.
great point. Until I moved to Germany last year,
Yeah.
I had gone to maybe a metal show once every 6 months. And since I've been here for less than a year, I've been to like eight. And the scene here is much more people focused. It's much
Sure.
more like live content oriented. And it's
Yeah.
probably because the internet's not great here, but that's okay. We still have it. It's just like not the most dominant way to consume metal. People want to go out to shows and rock out, and it's awesome.
Well, I feel like it's, I mean, I'm not in Germany, I'm in the States, but I just feel like it's probably a little more, for lack of a better term, mainstream in Germany, or at least culturally accepted versus,
Sure.
yeah.
I can see that. A lot of people have identities that are associated with the music that they love. And here, I don't know if the experience living in America was similar for you, but like I always thought Europe must love metal because they have bands like Rammstein, right? And I remember thinking,
Yeah,
like, if this band made it all the way to America, Europe must love it. And it's kind of true to a certain degree, but I'm
yeah,
not an analyst. I'm not really figuring it out. I just
sure.
enjoying what I'm doing here, you know?
Yeah, I'm basing that comment off that exact assumption. So
There
yeah,
it is. Perfect. We're on the same page.
yeah. I see the Funko Pops. What kind of Funko Pops you got over there?
Oh, what do we got? So in the background, We've got Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man,
Hell
oversized.
yeah.
And we have Alien Queen, oversized. And then we have just a normal alien out of the box right there. My wife collects them. She has like a whole wall of Funkos over here. So those are technically hers, but they're in my shelf for
Yeah.
streaming purposes and background prettiness.
I only have a couple myself. I have a Lemmy up there. That's a Lemmy Motorhead.
Oh, there you
Motorhead.
go, Motorhead, dude.
And then got my little Iron Maiden one.
Yo, that's awesome. So you're we actually have Ghost. We have I don't know how to say his name, whatever. We have that guy. We have Rob Zombie. Who else do we have? Yeah, we've got a few of the metal people. So that's kind of
Yeah.
neat. Funkos are an interesting part of the world. They're like modern day Beanie Babies. It's really weird.
Yeah. They very much kind of market to nerd culture in a way, in many
Oh,
different forms.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, what's the first place I saw it was in like a GameStop,
Yeah.
rip GameStop. But hey, they had them there and I was like, oh, this is a cool little collectible that represents me as a person. And so I got like Master Chief or whatever they had, crazy.
Oh, don't get me started on Halo. Keep talking about
Okay.
metal.
Okay.
uh, now your sound,
Mhm.
it's very progressive in my opinion. It adds elements that not typically found in death metal, which I think is kind of where your music exists loosely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in fact, you call your sound quote unquote death gaze. And I'm wondering, would you be willing to expound on that? What does death gaze mean to you?
Yeah, totally. So I actually did a podcast episode about this. Shout out to my podcast, Cardacast. Hilarious. I know, I'm
Hell
a
yeah.
genius. And I did an episode where I kind of explained the thought behind it, but I'll just kind of reiterate some of those points here for you, which is when we were writing our album, The Almanac, we wanted it to be something closer to like a beautiful death metal record. That was the language we used to talk to each other.
Yeah.
And so, because we were DIY at the time, we weren't on any labels. We had just come from a label and we had yet to be signed to Metal Blade. We were really focused on the whole picture of being a band, writing the music, performing the music, making our own music videos, marketing. And so, when we got to the marketing discussion, I asked the guys, does this feel like death metal? Does it feel like metalcore? Does it feel like prog metal? And we had this internal discussion, and I even asked people in our community, like, what is this kind of? And somebody said to me at one point, it sounds like if death metal and shoegaze had a baby. Now, you just heard the name of the podcast is Cardicast, so naturally I was like, death metal shoegaze, death shoe. No, it doesn't. That doesn't do it. Metal shoe. No, it doesn't do it either. We're not Italian. I'm Italian, but anyway, death gaze. And I was like, ooh, that kind of rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
And boom, the hashtag was born. So
Mhm.
it was that organic, it was that honest. But when I'm describing the sound, it's something more brutal than metalcore, but it's more beautiful than deathcore. And so that's kind of the balance that I think we exist in between in the spectrum of subgenres.
Mhm. I think when I think of like beautiful in terms of death metal, I think of like some of the more melodic death metal bands, like say like Insomnium. But which I do think
Sure.
you do have some similarities with especially with like the clean vocals and some of the more ethereal parts. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, death gaze, I liked it. I'm also like thinking about some of the other ways you could have combined those words.
Yeah, I'm open to it. I love discussing subgenre tags. I'm the one person who will be like, no, it's not this because of that. And then I want I want like a subgenre shirt so I can like point to what I think a song is based on where I'm listening to it. I think it'd be hilarious. But anyway,
death, shoe metal,
shoe.
shoe,
See, dude, shoe metal. Careful, it's gonna happen. It's Rule 42. You put it in the universe. It's gonna be there
shoe,
somewhere.
shoe death. Or is there
Shoe
something
death.
here?
Shoe Death could be a band name,
Yeah.
actually. That'd be a gangster like grindcore slam band right there. Just
Yeah.
like, what's up, everybody? My name's Dave, and we're Shoe Death. Dun, 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 dun. And like that's the whole song. That would be killer.
I feel like so like especially like slam or grindcore, you get I mean there are bands that have such interesting gimmicks. Like you could get a grindcore band that's just all about eating shoes and then people would like it. It would work.
Absolutely, because they
Yeah.
would be the one knowing about it. It's like a hipster culture thing.
Yeah.
What's that one? There's a Simpsons themed band that's called like Flanders or something like that.
I'm not familiar, but
Oh,
that's phenomenal.
yeah, you gotta just Google Flanders metal band, and there it is. It's hilarious. So yeah, I know what you
Yeah.
mean.
um Now, from my understanding, there's a story here in the album. It's kind of a concept, and it's continuing from the last album. It's almost like a sequel. For those maybe not familiar or didn't listen to Liminal Right, you want to give maybe a trailer, or a synopsis of kind of the arc or the plot of these two records?
Yeah, I can totally do that. So our new album, Lilu Dallas Multipass, is not necessarily a continuation of Liminal Right. It
Yeah,
is a continuation of our album, The Almanac. And we intentionally took a break because our singer gets fed up with the same content after a certain period of time. So
yeah,
he just deviates, and our fans are okay with that. But with our new album, Alelia, we had the idea to pick up the a story of the almanac with probably within like the first 50% that the album was written. You know, my
yeah.
singer Mark, he reached out and he was listening to the demos and he said, "You guys, this feels like the Almanac Part 2 Electric Boogaloo. And I think we're going to have to pick up the story where it left off because we've always revisited that story.
Yeah,
It was our demo in 2012, it was our first EP in 2014, and then again in 2017 with the Almanac. So we were like, well, you know, we've already had this story for 3 releases. Let's just do a full album
yeah,
where the story picks up again. So Liminal Right was about an old man who returned to his family home where he grew up, and he was recollecting all the memories of his life while he, spoiler alert, ultimately takes his own life within that home that he grew up in. But that album was aside from the Kardashev mythos, we call it, because we're
yeah,
H.P. Lovecraft fans, at least for the lore, nothing else. And so with that, Lilenia was born, and we
yeah,
decided to pick it up there and include the language of Lululia. So it was
yeah.
perfect.
Cool. So Alumumu is so it's not necessarily a it's not like it's not like it's like the Halo 2 of Halo 1, but it is kind of a like continuation of like the themes, or like there is lore touch points throughout your career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I were to do let's do the Halo comparison, not so we
Yeah.
can get into video games again, because that would be way too delicate on
Yeah.
my heart, but
Yeah.
because sequels are fun to think about when the characters return, when the
Yeah.
motifs come back. Like when you first heard the dun 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 dun, like you knew
Yeah.
the trailer was going to be the thing you were going to love next because the
Yeah.
familiarity and the love you have for the dun 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 dun, you know. So because Halo had touched so many people, and then they came out with Halo 2, we think that the Almanac had a good enough sound, had a good enough melodies and a balance of heavy vocals versus like clean vocals, as some people say, that we wanted to revisit if we could continue that story, not just lyrically, but sonically. So for those people who have heard the Almanac, they're going to hear a lot of the same melodies returning, kind of like a character melody. You know, when you watch Star Wars, it doesn't matter which Star Wars it is. When you hear the dun 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 dun, dun, you know it's a specific character that is going to be on the
Yeah.
screen or that the scene is about. We wanted to do the same thing.
Can I? I'm gonna get myself canceled here. This is the end of the show. I'm sorry, but I need to say something about Star Wars.
Okay, we'll hear it.
I think it's the most overrated piece of media in American culture.
I think that that take is the privilege of somebody who has a breadth of experience around the internet,
Yeah.
because the
Okay.
rest of us were stuck with whatever the hell was on television and the occasional Final Fantasy
Yeah.
release. That's all we had. So then when Star Wars came out, everybody was like, "More awesome stuff." That doesn't mean it's the best, but it was
Yeah.
super cool when we saw it.
Here's my take. I think the original, like I think Empire Strikes Back and New Hope are amazing
Yep.
films, but
Okay.
there's this culture around it, and like the rest of the films are average at best to bad. Like
Yeah,
uh
it's the pop music of movies. That's
yeah.
what you got to realize, right? I don't listen to Taylor Swift. That doesn't mean she hasn't got money. That doesn't mean she doesn't
Yeah.
ruin the planet with her jet going halfway to McDonald's and back. You know what I'm saying? Like instead, you just got to look at what it is. What it is. It's pop movie. That's it,
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
it.
Yeah. I just
What- Once you put it on the right pedestal, it's
yeah.
okay that it's on a pedestal. You just got to make sure it's the right one. That's
I have
all.
friends who are huge Star Wars fans, so like no disrespect, it's just like it has never clicked for me, and so there's that.
Okay. But what has clicked for you? What did click for you?
Well, we talked about Halo, so that is definitely clicked
Okay,
compared to what.
facts. Okay, so it was games, but also Halo, also those types of storytelling. All right.
Yeah.
So if somebody were to say to you that Halo's kind of the pop of the gaming world, you'd have reason to refute it for your own reasons. And I would totally hear you out. I'd be like, yeah, you're right. You're right. It's awesome. I loved it. I played it. It was a great series. I loved it to death. Is it on the right pedestal in your mind? I don't know. That's for you to decide.
So I think I would say that like you can't necessarily equate pop um with financial success. It's the intention. Like, would you call Judas Priest pop? They sold a ton of records, but they never like tried to make a mainstream sound whatsoever. Whereas, there are bands like Blink-182 that did try to pop a five punk rock to make more money. So it's like kind of there is kind of a balance
Hmm.
there. It's not a one equals one.
Okay, I actually do agree with you. I will concede that the intention behind we'll just say product, so it's kind of more
Yeah,
encompassing. The intention behind the product, it's either deliberate or it's kind of like a lottery thing where it's like, yeah,
sure.
we don't know why people like this so much, but here we are rolling in the dough, right? If that's what ultimately happened, then good for them. It's kind of like a lottery score for
Yeah,
them. But to your point about the intention behind the thing. I sincerely think that Halo Combat Evolved, Halo 1 on the Xbox, was intentionally designed as the next Tetris. Like they wanted the thing that most
yeah.
people would fall in love with for their flagship system.
Mhm.
But anyways, that's kind of all the only comparison I'll make because I agree with you mostly. That's where I'm at.
Well, I'm gonna bring back Halo at the end of this interview because
I
we
would love
got
to
we got
do
to
that.
talk.
Let's,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
do it.
Um, I'm interested in your guitar work on this record mainly
Oh,
because I know you are the only guitarist credited on the album.
yep.
But are you recording more than one guitar track? Because I listened and it definitely sounds like there's more guitars there.
Yes, there
Yeah,
are absolutely are. As a matter of fact, I'm looking in the session right now because I was mixing something.
yeah,
So thank you for your appreciation on the guitar work.
yeah,
I do get appreciated sometimes, but it's nice to hear it every time.
yeah,
With our recording process, it has 99% of the time it's me doing the guitar work and the composition, and
yeah,
everybody else having their opinion also, involved into that decision making for the
yeah,
composition. But on the guitar stuff, it's just me until Liminal Right, when our bass player Alex said, "Hey, I've got some riffs. Do you want to like toss them around and see what's usable?" I said, "Absolutely. I could use all the help I could get." Because up until that point, I didn't really have a need for another guitar player, but when somebody already in the band said, "Hey, I
yeah.
also have this skill. Let's work together." I thought, "Okay, that's perfect." So with Alunea, wait, is that the yeah, with Alunea, we had probably at some times 10 guitars playing simultaneously. And that's kind of what creates the wall of noise that comes at you
Yeah.
when then it's a dense sort of mix. So thank you for your appreciation on that. But
Yeah,
yeah, there are absolutely a ton of guitars in there.
yeah. So I'm wondering when you take Naya Lu live,
Right.
how are you gonna have a session guitarist? You're gonna do backing track? Like what's the plan for that?
Yeah, this is a great question. I'm going to give you the facetious answer and then the real one. The facetious answer is that we're going to have a symphony of guitar players on stage, and each of them is going to have a role. I intend to
Amazing.
pay them a full living wage with benefits and retirement. Now, the real answer is we don't play live. Full stop.
Okay.
Period. Punct. We don't have the ability to because the logistics of our band. Two people are in the United States, one guy's in Canada, and I'm in Germany. We can't exactly drop our families and some of us children, not
Yeah.
me, families, children's, and two of the guys own their own businesses that need them to
Yeah.
operate the business to make money for their household. So
Cool.
between the four of us, we can't quit what we're doing every day to go on long
Absolutely.
tours. So that's where we're at.
So I'm interested to like hear with how because like you're on Metal Blade and I'm like so Metal Blade's
Yeah.
cool with you just like not playing live like they're like that's like okay cool yeah like or like do they want you to play live ever or
So they do encourage it. They do say like,
yeah
"Hey, are you guys interested in touring on this record?" They'll just say, "Are you interested?"
yeah
And usually I give them the same spiel about people not able to do it.
yeah
But to your question about Metal Blade and Kardashev's working relationship and why we're able to be signed, so to speak, it's because of our internet presence. And if I'm being very honest, it's because of my singer's internet presence. He has a 150,000 strong subscriber count on YouTube
Mm,
where he analyzes singers and
yeah.
gives you tips on how to be a singer yourself. And he teaches you how to make the crazy noises that he makes, right? So with that, they see they see our internet presence and traction as a not one to one, but
Yeah.
some kind of equivalence to touring. Yes, we don't make nearly as much money as those bands do. There's no way in heck we could,
Yeah.
but we do have a presence, and every time we have a release, people are still around and interested, even though we don't tour. So we must be doing
Mm.
something right. That's kind of the idea.
You have when I checked this morning, you have about 50,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, which is pretty good for a death metal like related band. So yeah, you're
Yeah.
doing something right.
Yeah, I think so too. We're trying to get that number to 100,000 so that we can
Yeah.
feed ourselves from it, but for now, it's good
Yeah, yeah,
enough.
yeah. No one thinks that like Spotify numbers is associated with
Financial
financial gain.
success.
But it does say something in terms of like if you have a higher number, people know about
I totally agree. That just means the
you.
marketing arm is strong. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
um, so something that also piqued my interest on the record is I want to talk about the mix a little bit because it's interesting. It sounds heavy, but also very bright and big, and you also kind of avoid it this like sterile sound that a lot of bands maybe fall into when they kind of create something that has some like metalcore influences in there. So like, who can you credit in terms of like the production?
This is a great question, and
Yeah,
I love how detailed you are with it. Thank you so much. I'd love
yeah.
to talk about this. So, in the what has it been now? 13 years that we've been a band, we had always gone with the same producer and engineers
Mhm.
on every single release. So, for anybody who's interested in deep diving the Kardashev discography, you will notice a sonically consistent sound from our demo all the way up until the Bearing of Shadows.
That was a cool
Once the
noise.
Oh, I was just popping my. I know. Sorry, that's it's
Yeah.
kicking in right now. But um, the cool thing about liminal right and then now Alunea is that we kind of gave ourselves permission to branch out beyond home engineering and working with the same producer. He did an incredible job, and I would still work with him to this day. But we had opportunities through the network of Metal Blade to work with other producers who were getting notoriety for equally as good, if not more transparent or even more progressive mixes. So when we did Liminal Right, the same producer still engineered the record for us, but then we had a different mastering engineer. That was Ryan Williams. He used to be in a band called the Black Dahlia Murder. And
Oh, I've
now,
never heard of them.
yeah, no, me neither. I had to
Yeah,
Google them a little bit. They have
yeah,
like, they've been around for a while, something about apes and bananas. I don't remember.
yeah.
But with Aliblana, we had decided to reach out to some new engineers and we got some quotes because now we're on a record label. We have a different kind of budget than just
Huh.
DIY budget. So with that budget, we were able to reach out to a bunch of different engineers. And the one that came back that we thought was the most fitting was Zach Oren. And that is who mixed this record for us. And it was a wild time to mix this record. I was in the middle of moving to Germany. I had just been asked to move out of the house that I was living in. So I was kind of like frazzled. And I was like, okay, so I have to pack all my stuff. And if I'm going to move anywhere, I'm just going to move to my wife in Germany. Like, why would I stay in America if I don't have to? So I dipped out. And it was in that 2 months or so of packing and then settling here that the album was being mixed in California by Zach. So he
Wow.
was sending me stuff that I was on my phone. I didn't even have a computer yet. I was on my phone
Yeah.
and I was like listening. I was like, oh my God. So it was a really weird experience, but I think it's the most transparent and powerful album as far as mix and production that we've ever had.
Yeah, no, it definitely stood out to me. Like this is crisp. It's clean, but also has that jagged edge of metal. It's beautiful and it sounds big, but it doesn't lose like the aggression that I think you still want to get through. So
Yeah.
I appreciate a good mix.
Yeah, me too. Trust me. When we
Yeah.
heard Vildhjarta's Mastodon was remastered, that was the first thing we went back and listened to because we also appreciate a good mix.
Hell yeah. Um, Now, you mentioned kind of starting this band in 2012. When you
Yeah,
started this band, put out that first demo, which was I'm looking at Metal Archives called Progression.
yeah.
Um, did you have any idea that you would be putting out records in 13 years later on Metal Blades? Like, would you still, you'd be putting out your third record? Did that ever occur to you?
No way, Maddie. No way. No way. No way, Jose. No way. We wanted to do it. We had an intention. Let's go back to the intention of pop music, right?
Yeah,
We had an intention to not play live and to focus on recording studio records. That was the two things that we were like, okay, we've done the local band playing the bar every weekend type of band sort of business
yeah.
model, and we hated it. So we disbanded, and one other guy, Chris, our bass player in that old band, he and I hired Mark. Well, hired him. We were invited him. We didn't have any money. We invited him to be in the band. We said, "Hey, you've always wanted to be a singer, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." And we were like, "Can you scream?" And he's like, "I could teach myself." And we were like, "Sick, let's do it." So we recorded this demo at home, and we found that first engineer by looking at the back of one of our favorite albums of all time, which is Dissension by Aegean. And we looked at who produced the album, and we called that dude, and we were like, "Yo, what do you charge to do a demo?" And he gave us a rate, and we could afford it, and bam, we sent it to him. Ever
Fuck
since
yeah.
then, every single time something happens for us for the band, I'm always surprised. I'm like, why does anybody care? Like, this is so crazy.
Yeah.
It's weird, dude. I live in this like strange fantasy. But anyways, that's the spiel.
Cool. I love this feel.
Thank you.
I I don't know if many people ask you about this, but I'm just it piques my curiosity because I love black metal.
Okay.
I am looking at your band's Metal Archives profile right now, and
Yeah.
three of you, Mark, yourself, and Sean, are also in a black metal band called Never Breath. Do you have anything to
Yeah.
say about that?
I can tell you that that band is still making music.
Yeah,
We have an intention to release a full length at some point, but
yeah,
it's not a priority right now. And the funny thing is, I'll just give you the quick lowdown. We love black metal, all of us. We
yeah.
adore it. But not like the AC/DC of black metal behemoth, right? Like we're not interested in the pop black metal
I've never
necessarily.
heard someone say pop black metal, but that makes a ton of sense.
But it's true, right? Because
Yeah,
Adam Darsky's over there in Poland and he's like, I'm gonna make a band. And then he's like, but then there's also capitalism. And so like it's working. I'll let him have
yeah.
it. He's carving paths that we would happily follow. So with that being said, we came across so much incredible one person black metal bedroom projects thanks
Oh,
to
yeah.
Bandcamp and the YouTube algorithm that we can't help but show our appreciation. So I said on Twitch one day, I was streaming, this was like in 2019 or something. I was streaming and I said, I bet you I could write a black metal album. And somebody in Twitch said, could you write a song in an hour? And I said, I could write an album in a week. And so I did it on stream 7 days in a row. I wrote a song in an hour every single day. And that was how that record was born. Boom, it's done. And now, for some reason, we're still trying to make music with that project. I don't know why, but we are. So,
Black metal like is the talent of black metal get that atmosphere across, but like a lot of the music is deceptively simple. Like
totally.
Transylvanian Hunger, like I could teach that to any guitarist in like an hour. Like it's not a hard
Sure.
song. Like
Yeah, sure. Let me think. Sigh of an Open Eye. I mean, there's so many incredible black metal songs that are deceptively simple, just like you
yeah,
said. It's the flavor of the mix with like the atmosphere and then the raw vocals. It when you put
yeah,
that much reverb in a cave and then put a microphone at the mouth of the cave and let some dude just shred a little bit on like a
yeah,
high watt amp, game over, dude. Incredible.
yeah. I I actually had a band on earlier this week, a black metal band, and we are kind of talking about how black metal, there's a lot of bands that like try to like add atmosphere to metal music nowadays. But like black metal just laid that foundation, mastered it in the 90s. Like when no one else was thinking
Totally.
of making metal atmospheric to that extent. I mean, like obviously like Black Sabbath had atmosphere, but not to like such an intentional level where it's like all about feeling like you are being sucked into a black hole.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna call you out on using the word intentional level. I actually don't know if it was their intent to build that kind of atmosphere or if it was a result of ignorance on how to record a proper clean signal. And I'm being
Okay.
honest. I'm not trying to
Yeah.
throw shade anywhere, but there are like beautiful documentaries that have been done, like Before the Light Takes Us, and oh, what's that other one? Oh crap, I'm losing it. But anyways, Before the Light Takes Us is an excellent deep dive into the history of black metal and why it started and how it became. And when I watched that, it kind of dawned on me that I don't think they had the knowledge or the tools, resources, we'll just call them, to make a modern sounding metal record. So black metal is what they landed on that we all have come to know. That I really do think that's what happened. And it's great.
Yeah. Do you think though that like after these recordings came out, after like Dark Throne and Mayhem put out their recordings, they're like, atmosphere, that's why it's good. And they started selling it as that, even though they didn't intentionally start making it that way. Like it's kind of a retrospective. That's what we were doing. It was yeah.
Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
think so. I think they self-reflected. They saw that the flavor of the dish that was the most um, valuable was the atmosphere, and they were like, we have to emulate the atmosphere, no matter what we talk about, no matter what how many instruments we throw in there. Because I mean, if you look at it now, you have like I don't know, like Carrick Angren, right? You have like theatrical symphonic black metal that was on Adult Swim green screened with a fish with a fish tank, and they're performing like Where the Corpses Sink Forever, talking about World War I, people like killing themselves in the middle of war. Like, come on, dude. That is atmosphere, but they don't have to take themselves that seriously. They just know the atmosphere is what they want to continue making and putting into the world. And I really do think that that's true. I do.
And people have built on it. Like I know I have a Panopticon record right there, adding bluegrass to it, and it's so
Exactly.
yeah.
It's like progressive black metal at that point because they're pushing the boundaries of what is and what can be. I
Yeah.
adore innovation for these reasons
Yeah.
exactly.
Cool.
It's beautiful.
Well, yes, I agree. We're both nerding out about metal, and that's what the show's all about. So yeah.
I'm so in.
Yeah. Well, I said it. I want to go back to Halo because you said it, and like I love it, the series so much. So I don't know how many of the games you've played, but I'll just tell you this: of all the mainline Halo games, we're not going to count Halo Wars or like Spartan Assault. Those don't count. Those don't add to the lore that much. But of all the ones you've played,
Mhm.
rank them from
Oh,
worst to
rank them.
best.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to throw S tiers around or anything. Okay, so real talk. If we're factoring in the story, with as much of it that I've played, which I did play Halo Wars and I liked quite a bit because I'm a strategy gamer.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about what I've played, I would say that the Covenant as a sort of force in the universe
Yeah.
is kind of compelling to me, but not as much as the Flood, because the Flood is like, what is it? It's not Orwell. It was, ooh, I can't think of the author, but War of the Worlds. Help me out here.
Oh,
Yeah. Anyways, the
yeah.
story
I
of
know what
War
you're
of the
talking about.
Worlds
Yeah.
is that humans are actually not the major threat on the planet. Bacteria is, right?
Yeah.
And that is the Flood. The Flood is like the modern, well, I would say the sci-fi equivalent of War of the Worlds, which is already sci-fi, but it's futuristic because the Flood cannot be controlled, seemingly, by anyone. They're just this force that exists, and it keeps spreading, kind of like bacteria. Now, that being said, I loved ODST
Yeah.
completely because no longer are you the superhero. Now you're the dude who supports the superhero. You're kind of like you're kind of like a Q if James Bond like was sick and they were like, "Cool, well you're in charge of James Bond, so you go out there." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "But I'm not a field agent. I'm like an office jockey." And they're like, "Whatever, we need someone to do it." He's like, "Cool, fighting bad guys today." So I think it was kind of neat that they deviated the story there. So ODST is probably the top, but if I had to rank them, I think I would do two, one. Oh, I'm gonna say three.
Yep.
No, two, no, two, one, ODST three. I think that's kind of where the extent of my Halo knowledge would be focused. Yeah.
I
What
like
about
it. I
you?
like I like that ODST being number one. That's kind of a hot take. That is not a common opinion, but I love the you not taking the safe route. That is awesome. So while you were saying that, I kind of was typing it out myself. So I'm gonna start from
Okay,
bottom to top.
let's
So
hear it.
the worst Halo game in my opinion is Halo 4.
Yeah, I didn't even list that one, so I'll agree.
Yeah, the art style, just I don't know what they were doing, why they decided to change it. It just didn't have the same feel. The story, like it just what they did with the Forerunners just like totally like went off what I think Bungie intended, and it just kind of ruined a lot of things I loved about the series. It didn't necessarily ruin it, but taking a direction I didn't like. I thought like it's cool to introduce like a rogue faction of the Covenant that kind of, or even rogue elites didn't agree with the Arbiter, but the way they did it, it just seemed kind of ham-fisted and kind of lazy. It wasn't believable to me, and so I didn't. Halo 4 is the worst.
Okay.
Halo
Okay.
5 is next. It's a little bit better. It's a little more consistent. I don't know. I don't love the fact that like Master Chief is not as playable as in the other Halo games, but I do understand the risk they were taking there. Like you want to like expand the universe. I think it's
Mhm.
really cool that they showed some of the things Halo Civil War. But overall, I think it just wasn't as strong as some of the earlier games. So
Yeah.
coming in at sixth place, Infinite. It's the best that 343 has done, but
Mm.
that's a low bar. It's a good game. It's the best they've done. Next, we got so in fifth place we got ODST. I just kept it
Okay.
rank it lower because it's a shorter game.
It
It's just
is.
kind of meant more of a DLC, it's expansion, but I love what they did with it. It's more has this atmosphere, kind of like an open
Mhm.
world kind of thing in a way that I think does it better than Infinite. I love the
Okay.
flashback. I love the characters. I think Buck is an incredible character. Um, this is the take that I think is going to cancel me get me canceled. I think at
Get ready,
four
internet.
I have four. I have the original Combat Evolved. I think for in terms of influence, it's number one, but in terms of overall quality, they're definitely starting. It's a simple game. It's just very, very just kind of to the point. I don't think they really knew where they were taking the series yet. I don't think it's as complete as some of the ones that came afterwards. So there's Halo
Mhm.
Combat Evolved.
Okay.
In third place, I have Reach. I think I'm higher than some other people. I just think it's a really fun game. I love the drama. I love how it connects to Combat Evolved. I love just how they sold the prequel. I think they just did it really well. Gives it just expands the universe. You get the origins of Cortana. It's fantastic.
Hmm.
Um, Second place, Halo 3. I just think it's the perfect conclusion to the original trilogy. You cry at the end. The chemistry between the Arbiter and Master Chief is brilliant. And then
Yeah.
my favorite Halo 2, just because it like
I
really
knew it.
shows who the Covenant is. It isn't just some alien just shooting. It really just shows them as this religious cult, and I think that's perfect. Perfect. Some of the cutscene they did to there, really developing, the elite as this like instead of just like these like monsters that you're shooting, you see them as like, oh, this was a deceived race, and they're not bad people, and there's actually some good in there. And then you start seeing this like rebellion against the Covenant, and just I think it's fantastic. I think the storytelling in two is the best.
Sure. Yeah, that was the most in-depth tier list of the Halo franchise I've ever heard. And
Okay.
I think I agree with everything that I knew about with your opinion. A lot of those games I haven't even played. I think I played like four Halo games of all. And when you started with seven, I was like, oh my God, I need to play more Halo. What the heck? So that was really fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. I
Cool.
like exactly. I like the end when you said that the Covenant was not no longer just the bad guy you were shooting. They
Yeah.
actually were like this deceived race. You know that
Yeah.
they're like fulfilling this purpose on like a religious zealot's dime sort of thing.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of fascinating. I like that.
Honestly, it's a good allegory to modern politics, right? I think and modern like society, I think we can be very critical of like especially the evangelical American church, right? For like their political
Hmm.
influence and how you have these mega pastors that are, deceiving people and taking advantage of people, taking their money. But the people that are like being taken advantage of, they're doing damage too. They're definitely doing damage and they're guilty, especially in terms of like, in terms of LGBTQ acceptance and all that. But they don't know how to escape it. Some of them grew up into it and they don't know how to question it. So there is some empathy I have there.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so the evangelical church is the covenant. That's the conclusion we're ending with.
Oh gosh, I love that comparison. I really do love that compare. And if that's the case, if that's the case, then many people who wind up in politics with the wrong ideals,
Yeah.
I think those are the people who are being the most manipulated by the covenant, if that's the case. You know, they they're not seeing the whole picture. They're seeing the picture that they think is the prettiest, and they're putting all of their tokens in that basket, and it's really fucking frustrating.
So do we have so who is in our real world example, who is the arbiter then? Who is the people that were like had all the access to power but decided that they saw something wrong and were going to rebel against it? Who is that? Is that
I don't know, that might be hard to pinpoint in
yeah,
reality because you'd have to know so much. First people that come to mind, I don't know, maybe the people who are stuck in the middle, the moderates of the political world, the ones
yeah,
who abstain from influencing one
yeah,
direction or another because they're scared that or not scared, rather they're convinced that they're not going to move the dial in any particular direction. So what's the point? So the moderates who held back, I would say, are probably the political equivalent in real life
yeah,
because they don't realize how much weight they have and how much change could instill they could
yeah,
instill, especially if they just talked with other people who were equally as frustrated, then they would realize that they're actually not alone, and that, you know what I mean?
yeah.
I don't know.
Um,
Yeah, I could go on.
I agree with you. I think also maybe it's more of a stretch, but I think maybe like some of those like revolutionaries like Che Guevara, because like Che was like part of like the upper class and was like going in to be kind of a huge doctorate and toward South America and saw, wait, we're the bad guys. This is bad. And then fought for the oppressed, which is like kind of what the Arbor did, fought for humanity instead of
Hmm.
fighting for the Covenant.
So someone stepping down from their position of privilege to join the ranks of the common person who they're stepping on for for their whole life. They were stepping on them. I guess I don't know. What's that dude's name that killed that CEO of like a
Oh,
healthcare.
Luigi Mangione?
Yeah, maybe this guy, because I hear
Yeah.
that he had some coins when he was growing up, and then one day he was like so fed up with like the turmoil of life and the way people were being treated by insurance companies and medical companies that he was like, yeah, I'm gonna do something about it. So maybe him in a way, possibly.
Sure. Fun fact about Luigi is that as a gamer you might appreciate this.
Okay.
He worked I forgot whatever company makes the Civilization games. He worked on Civ 6 and he fixed like over 300 bugs in that game.
Whoa, what a Chad.
Yeah.
Yo, dude, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like people who work in the creative industries,
Yeah.
video games included, of course, they have more awareness because the people around them are creatives. They have similar worldviews. They receive more influence than that of what their local church and their family told them. You know, like they're receiving world music, they're receiving world cuisine and cinema. I mean, maybe that's a part of the equation. Maybe he got plugged into the gaming universe and was like, "Oh, the people around me actually are pretty cool, pretty interesting." Maybe that was the point of turning for him. Maybe not. I actually don't know. I don't
I
even know if
always
he
say that video
qualifies.
games is one of the most tangible ways to show people how fucked up capitalism is because you
What, because
get
of
all
microtransactions or what? What is it?
yes, yes. Well, we'll get further into it because you see all these talented developers, right? They get hired by these big companies to make these amazing games, and they're so talented. But then you have they get all laid off because they're not making enough profit because the big companies that don't actually make the games, like Activision and Ubisoft, want to push stuff like that. That this microtransaction is very derivative because they only see the dollar, they don't see the quality of the games, and so
Mhm.
because of that, you know, the workers are the ones being shat on
Yep.
because rich guy not making rich enough.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this quite a bit. I
Yeah.
think it was Joseph Ferris when he had his Game of the Year award speech, and he was talking about like how fucked all these AAA developers, quadruple A developers in some cases,
Yeah.
they get up there pretending like their game is the hottest shit when it's actually shit that's not hot. It's just cold shit that they put out, and they paid enough influencers to play it on Twitch so that somebody spent a nickel on it, only to realize all the cool stuff the Twitch streamer has is actually behind the paywall. I remember this happening with Fallout 76, not necessarily
Yeah.
the Twitch part or the streaming part, but just that they sold us the idea of a Fallout universe multiplayer only to realize that it was a skeleton of the idea that they sold us. Same thing with No Man's Sky when they made their promises and fell flat on that. So when we're looking at the industry now for the last couple of years, and so many talented and creative developers and creatives are being let go from the industry, it almost seems like those people need to be empowered through a crowdfunding platform similar to like Kickstarter
Yeah.
or Indiegogo or GoFundMe or like whatever it is. They need to have like a co-op, a place where they all are sharing resources to build the most awesome games that they can, leveraging one another's skills when available, while also making a bare minimum living wage on top of whatever they can prosper into. It seems like the whole entire thing from an economic standpoint has to be rebuilt because hiring developers and firing developers because your game actually did get game of the year or something
Yeah.
is despicable. And I think that we need to cancel those companies as a culture. We need to just cancel them. Just you're done. We're not buying from you anymore. We need to do what we did to Target: walk out, never walk back in.
I I so agree with you. I hope people don't buy the Switch 2. Don't buy the Switch 2. Don't buy it. Don't buy it. Nintendo is being such is so greedy right now. Don't do it.
This
Yes.
is why indie developers are so
Yeah.
valuable. They're so
Oh
valuable.
yeah. Yeah.
Dude, when I started, go
I'm
ahead.
playing Balatro religiously. Like just
Love it. Love it. And that dude's like, I am not monetizing this. I will not
yeah.
encourage gambling. It's just a game. What a Chad. And then to have the game, then to send his Joker marketing guy to
Yeah.
like receive his reward with that speech. Oh God, it was
Yeah.
such gold. Oh,
I remember what I was
just
gonna
shit on
say.
everyone.
So
Yes.
another thing we see with video games is like you have these like big streamers like Asmongold blaming the lack of quality in games on stuff like DEI, totally missing the point, scapegoating.
Sure.
Like it's like which is
Completely agree.
basically what like some of our leaders are doing. They're pointing you away from like the economic reasons, saying, oh, it's the other people, it's the minorities. That's what's fucking everything up.
Yeah. Well, okay. So sorry. What about Asmongold? Because I agree with you that he's definitely not like a he's interesting to watch, but not a good guy to get advice from. That's kind of where I draw the line. Like he's an entertainer.
Yeah.
He's not an intellectual.
Yeah.
You know, he
So a
might think
lot
he
of
knows everything on it, but I don't think he does.
so about Asmongold and a few other people kind of in his sphere of influence have been pushing this narrative that a lot of these games are failing because they're being too woke. They're putting too many
Mm,
LGBTQ characters or people of color. They're focusing on that versus focusing on quality of games. I'm like, no, they're just adding representation. The games are the same. The reason some of these games that you don't like are bad is because the creativity is being hampered by what big corporations want. They want these microtransactions. They want these battle passes. They're not letting developers be creative. It has nothing to do with that there was a black character in the game. That's
yeah.
ridiculous. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to agree with you based on what you've described and my own experiences of
yeah,
Asmongold and the sort of the people in that echelon who
yeah,
have a well-heard voice, but they also have a very narrow base, seemingly. And now I'm
yeah,
not a statistician, I'm not analyzing who his base is, but I don't know who would hear something like that and still stick around for more of it if they were qualified as one of the quote unquote problems of modern gaming. What I will say is the most obvious things that he maybe doesn't touch on as often, but maybe should, is the greed factor of mega corporations and the lack of disbursement of or the lack of spreading of wealth from an equity standpoint.
yeah,
If you have people that are working for you on a contractual basis, their heart won't be in it. If you give them stake and equity in the thing that you're asking them to participate in, they will have their heart in it. So if he's criticizing game companies for mishaps like what was the most recent one? AC. It wasn't Black Flag. It was Skull and Bones. For something like Skull and Bones, for somebody to have greenlit a game that had a GIF as part of the resource collecting animation in a AAA title for full price, and then to turn around and like get rid of part of that studio for the money that they didn't ultimately make. It
Yeah.
sounds like a cold decision to be made that you can't point a finger on DEI decision making.
No.
So if you're going to cherry pick certain games who have non-cis white people in their game failing financially and then pointing the finger at DEI initiatives and saying that that's the reason that the game didn't make money, you're seriously overvaluing your own intellectualism.
Yeah, I mean the example that people are pointing at right now is Concord because it was a game that failed miserably from Sony. And the reason it failed miserably is because it just didn't look interesting. It was a very derivative game that looked like any other hero shooter. It just looked like Apex Legends, just budget version. And
Okay.
that's why the game failed. Nobody wanted to play. People had so many other competitive shooters. Why try one that doesn't look that interesting to begin with?
Okay.
But people took that as they took that game failing as, and they looked like, oh, these characters, some of them are, not super skinny and sexy. Some of them are like, they have the whole non-binary thing going on. They're all like, they're, oh, this game failed because it's woke and people don't want woke, and that's why nobody bought the game. And I'm like, bullshit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't think that an industry like video games can
Yeah.
say that all of the creatives that make up that industry, that there's not a normal distribution percentage of LGBTQ, non-cis, non-white, non-ideal, and some stupid
Yeah.
person's perspective, people make up that staff. And they
Yeah.
want representation as well. So if you're in the art department and you happen to be a black woman and you think that this character should be a black woman, so be it. It's not your bias, it's because it's representation.
Yeah.
Why do you think all of the Greek gods were like men and women who were white? Geez, I wonder. It's probably because all the fuckers that were listening to him, that were believing in them, were also
Yeah.
probably going to be white. So we might
Yeah.
as well make them look like you so that you want to participate. It's like the story is old as time, and anybody who says DAI or DEI is bad or the representation is bad, they want to live in a completely flavorless boiled chicken world, and they can
Hmm.
do that somewhere else. Let them do that somewhere else. Don't do it in the games industry. We want flavor. We want
Yeah.
dynamics. We want more than reality. And reality is only fun because it's so dynamic.
I love that. I love that so much. Snaps. Um,
Snaps. Oh, thank you.
yeah.
Little dab.
Um, well, that's all I had prepared to ask for you, and we've been calling for.
And more. we
Yeah.
went off on games. We didn't even talk about Libelono. You know what I mean? That's crazy. But I do have an album coming out on the 25th
Yeah.
of April, by the way.
I do want to, before I let you go,
Yeah.
give the floor to you for any plugs. Tell people about where they can find the record, find your merch. Where can they go buy Lubanea at?
Yeah, so Liblon and Nono is our new record. It comes out on April 25th through Metal Blade Records.
Hmm.
We do not tour, we do not play live, so we encourage everybody to come to our Discord, discord.gg/Kardashev band. Very
I'm
easy to
gonna
remember
join
and
it
say.
right now.
Please do. We welcome
Yeah,
you. Yeah, I would love to have you there. I'll make a fancy role for you if you want.
sure.
And we live stream and we have YouTube channels and we do things on the internet, on the webiverse. So I would encourage you guys to grab some merch on our official store, kardashevband.com. If you're interested in our music, our lore, if you're interested in supporting the arts, we've been talking about the arts needing support, especially in the video games industry, but musicians are also trying to make money on their art. And if you appreciate art enough to spend a couple nickels, please do so. Buy a shirt, buy a CD, buy a vinyl, whatever you got. But we are available on the internet, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Hell yeah. Well, you heard it here. Check out the new Kardashev record coming out on the 25th of April off a Metal Blade record. I have heard it.
Yeah,
It's fantastic.
thank you.
As always, thank you to my patrons for keeping the show running.
Yes,
You watching,
thank you.
yes, you watching right now. Keep it metal. My name is Maddie, aka Beaver Mosh, and I am out of here.